That's the work, is figuring out how do we not overextend, but respond to our own needs real time.
Hi, I'm Debra, executive coach, consultant, and founder of Do Better Executive Coaching and Do Better by Design. After years of leading in education and higher ed, often in spaces not built for me, I turned those lessons into work that supports others. On this podcast, we keep it real. I sit down with artists, educators, entrepreneurs, and leaders to talk about legacy, healing, leadership, and the courage it takes to take up space without shrinking. If you're ready to lead with heart, live with intention, and take up space with no apologies, you're in the right place. Follow me for leadership gems, real talk, and reminders that you've got this. Why do we have to give ourselves permission to take time off? I mean, the system is set up that we accrue vacation time, yet many of us don't end up taking it. We just allow the hours and the days to pile up to a point where we start to lose time. Why is that? I know the moment that I realized that I had fallen into this trap of I can't take any time off. If I take time off, then something will be missed. If I take time off, when I come back, all the work will be piled up. The reasons were endless. And what I just kept seeing is me just banking more time and the toll that would take on my mind, my body, and my soul because I didn't give myself permission to take a break. I was reminded of this when I had applied for a position on semester at sea, and semester at sea, for those that don't know, is like college on the ship. I had applied for a position for the summer voyage, and I got it. And that would have me taking, I think, 3 months off. Can you believe that I had that much time accrued that I could take 3 months off? That I was so happy to have that much time. And it also made me so sad that I had allowed myself to accrue all that time and rob myself of just resting. So I'm really excited to talk to my guest today, who is doing something bold. She's going to sabbatical and setting a model for the people that she works with and so many others, which had me thinking, what if we didn't wait until we were completely depleted to take care of ourselves? Today's conversation is about restoration, clarity, and honoring yourself before burnout forces your hand. I'm joined by Lindsey Fuller, a leader and the executive director of Teaching Well, where she focuses on sustaining the adults in schools to build trauma-sensitive environments that truly support students. Lindsey is reshaping what it means to fill your cup while you're still standing. I know you're going to feel seen, challenged, and inspired by her story. Let's get into it.
Hello.
I am so excited to talk to you. I mean, you've been on my list for probably since I first met you.
Well, come on.
That was over a year ago. So I finally got the courage to be like, hey, do you want to be a guest on my podcast?
I was like, come on, friend. Let's get into good trouble.
So before we dive in, how's your heart today?
How you hit me with my own typical check-in question. I love that about you. My heart, I am full coming off of this conference season, like a socialization tour is what it feels like. So, travel is a gift. It's also overrated. And I'm actually very proud of myself. Last night, I was like, I'm going to stay for the whole evening reception on day 2. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm not. I'm going to say my goodbyes. I'm going to leave 3 hours earlier than I anticipated. I stayed, I learned, I grew, I stretched. And I want to get to my own bed. I want to get to my kids. I am reading my body cues and I need to go home. I'm exhausted. And that's it. That's the work, is figuring out how do we not overextend, but respond to our own needs real time.
That is time in the game. That is age. That is just wisdom. Remember when you first started going to conferences? I remember I would take out my little highlighter and be like, this is this session, and try to go to the early sessions and completely burn out. When did you decide that you didn't have to attend conferences like that anymore? Because what you just said
that's a word.
is crazy. No one teaches us
Mhm.
that. We didn't know that we had a choice.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes. There's so much agency. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of my testimony around workplace well-being is that we have significantly more agency than we've been led to believe, and that we accept, internalize, and enact. And so I think for me, I am I'm still healing out loud.
Mm,
Always healing out loud. That is one of my biggest goals in life is to not be closeted in my healing journey. The first year I came to the teaching well, I was telling the board, like, I feel guilty. I'm getting to travel and all the team isn't going to all these events. And the then board chair, Lisa, said, girl, travel's overrated. You'll see.
mm,
And that whole first year, I worked my way into the ground. And so I would say about 3 years ago, I started to make those micro shifts around what conference experiences, summits could be. You know, like yesterday, I also pulled up, saw it was offered for breakfast, sitting in gratitude, and also knew that if I don't have 2 eggs a day, I'm not my best self. My
mm,
team knows this. Okay,
mm,
we travel as a squad, and the Teaching Well team is looking for coffee for Marisol and eggs for Lindsay. I know what works for my body at this point.
mm. And you're paying attention.
I'm paying attention, but I'm also just not willing anymore
Mm,
to dupe myself. I know that if I eat cereal, I will be hungry in another hour.
mm,
I know that I will have a sugar spike. I know that when I eat eggs, the perfect protein for me, and I'm plant-based and that's my business, everybody, you know? It's like I know how to tee myself up and what the optimal conditions for consuming nutrition are. I travel with snacks. I'm that granny.
mm,
Okay? I got protein goals, and I cannot count on others to provide for me what I can provide for myself, and bless my ancestors who weren't always able financially to do that. But I invest seriously in food, and I carry my heavy water bottle everywhere. People think I'm bananas. But anyway, I looked and saw what was served, and I went to the hotel restaurant and I ordered what I knew would prepare me for the marathon of the day.
mm,
So it's those types of agency decisions that help me stay resilient in the
mm,
face of pretty taxing conferences are grueling,
mhm,
and they're necessary.
mm.
So, what's the middle path?
I love that. So in my intro, I said Lindsay is reshaping what it means to fill her cup while still standing. And I truly believe that's what we're witnessing. We'll witness through this episode because I remember when we were doing our pre-check-in, um, and you had said this: I don't want to get to total depletion before I care for myself. And that really landed for me. I'm curious, when you talk about your first year and burning out, was that when you realized, like, I need to make some shifts? Or was it
Mhm.
before that?
That's one of those mirror moments, right? Where some I believe that the universe will continue to cyclically loop learnings to you until you are willing to face them.
Mm,
And so that first year, I think I felt clear that I was nearing burnout. And all of a sudden, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, oh, I've been here before. There's a nervous system memory here. I keep doing this. And I recently, last year, did a keynote, my first international keynote for We Are for Good. And the topic they chose was pause. So I did a keynote, my first ever keynote on my own burnout journey, and a reflection that some educators have deep eye rolls for, but it's my truth, which is that I've realized I am the protagonist in my burnout journey. And as an educator, teacher, as an administrator, as a district leader, I did encounter workplace abusers. I did have unsustainable conditions shaping my roles. And I also perpetually overextended. I did not articulate and enforce my boundaries. I stayed far too late at work. I
mm,
volunteered for every task. I did not accept support. And I mean, the list could go on, right? But I think that for me, while it's not impossible for us to climb out of burnout, the cost is greater. That is like one of the wisdom hits that's come up upon my spirit. It's like it takes more time, more effort, more support, and more resources. It literally is more expensive to burn out.
mm,
It will drain your bank account your emotional reserve, and your relational bank account. And so at the Teaching Well, we're trying to advocate for folks to engage in a self-study and begin to decrease the frequency and severity of burnout seasons.
Mm.
You can't prevent them 100%, but I actually can shorten the length of suffering
Mm.
and the depth, the severity of that self-harm and that profound unwellness, you
Mm.
know? So I'll just note yesterday at the conference, Sky Perryman, phenomenal. She said her and her legal team have come to the shared cultural understanding that if you're tired, rest, but don't quit. Like build a tap out system for you and your team so that folks can stay in the work, but they can step back when they need to. And I was like, this right here,
Mm.
that's the work.
Mhm.
You're listening to the Do Better with Debra podcast with guest human-centered leadership coach and keynote speaker Lindsey Fuller. Make sure to visit dobetterexecutivecoaching.com and learn how you can lean into your power and lead with confidence, purpose, and joy. And now, back to the podcast.
I'm struck by the word climbing out of. And I think it's the word climb because
Mm.
when you are, I'll use myself as a example. When you're conditioned to climb the corporate ladder or climb the, um, I don't even say, I don't even the word is corporate. Climb the leadership ladder, right? You're program director, then you want to be a director, then you want to be, right? Like we're conditioned. More money, more influence, more.
Mhm.
So that's part of the climb. And with the climb comes these sacrifices. So you are you saying that we have to have a mind shift about the climb and how we do the climb? Because with the climb, we're conditioned to volunteer for everything, go to everything, stay late. Can you see me? Are they seeing me? Am I going to be noticed so I can get to the next? Like this is the game that we've landed in, right?
Yeah. And it might be it might be that my verb is just for me. For others, it might be untying the weights from your ankles while you're trying to tread water. It
Mm.
could be trying to descend down a mountain without the appropriate harness. I mean, it really helped me to be with my burnout. And
Mhm.
that keynote planning actually was a deeply therapeutic, very raw and vulnerable experience. I encourage everyone, articulate, write a poem, draw a picture, create a presentation about your burnout story
Mhm.
if that suits you. You don't ever have to share it.
Mm.
And be careful that you don't trauma dump.
Mhm.
But that exercise, I wanted it to be observable. I
Mm.
wanted it to be descriptive. I wanted to, again, in that self-study, that pursuit, figure out, how did I get here? What did it look like, sound like, and feel like before, during, and after?
Mm.
Because I don't want to keep returning to this place. For me,
Mhm.
it is a climbing out. And I hear what you're saying around leadership conditioning. And I mean, this is one of the most toxic elements of leadership to me is that this is the way it's done and this is the way it's to be.
Yep. Yep.
And it took me, this is a recent, actually, listen, this is a recent therapeutic somatic opening I just had, bless my therapist. But I have realized recently that I have a phrase I often said, which is like, I'm a solid number two.
Mm.
Like my preferred leadership position was the dean, was the assistant or vice principal. I came to the teaching well as the deputy director,
Mm.
right? Everywhere I've gone, I'm like, I'm a solid number two. I'm hella loyal. I'll hold up the number one, but I'm an umbrella. I will cover in a storm my team. I want boots on the ground. I'm ready to shoulder up. Like that was my identity. And I've always had a workplace abuser.
Mm.
And this is the first time in my life I don't have one right now.
Mm.
This is the first time in my career I don't have someone. And you know what I realized? This is some deep, listen. I realized that after I no longer had it, once I hit the number one seat, which apparently is meant for me.
Mm.
So that's a thing.
Yes. Yes.
That once I took the number one seat and actually didn't have someone with their knee on my neck, I put my own knee there.
Mm.
My negative self-talk increased. my ruminations, my questioning of myself, right? Like how I was treating myself, the lack of grace, the lack of acceptance, this is how it should be. I really have been praying around impermanence and accepting just like that I can't control things. But I took that role over. And so this is what I mean around my own role in my well-being cannot be uh, undercut. Like I have a huge impact on me, and I got to get me before I could get anybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I share that just to say the work is never done. However you define it, for me, it's climbing out of a deep cavern. It's about challenging the stories you've been told, whether it be in the middle of the night to yourself or from other folks. And it's about saying to yourself, there are work environments and teams for me where I can thrive. It is my birthright. To be well is my birthright. I demand it. It's a non-negotiable. Just like we think about salary.
Yep.
It's a non-negotiable for me to be a whole human. And this job isn't for me if they will not support that.
I am one with the 100%. I think on my journey, I would say I'm no longer accepting the abuser. So I will
How
tell
about
you,
that?
this is who you're getting, and this is the expectation. And if you cross
Hmm.
that line, I'm walking.
Yeah, how about that?
Because in my journey, I think I've accepted it because I'm like, "Ugh, gosh, like I'm making this salary, I'm making this, I have this title, I've worked really hard." And then something happened about 3.5 years ago where I'm like, oh, hell no.
Mm.
No, that's never going to happen ever again.
Ever again. Yeah, I'm complete with that. I'm complete with that circle. And, the other day I was talking to a superintendent that I coach who was like, these are the golden handcuffs
Oh God, I
that
hate
no
that so
one
much.
prepared me.
Yes.
I know. But he was like, no one prepared me to understand that once you hit a certain salary level
Hmm.
and your entire life is built around that financial amount,
Yep.
like what your partner's able to do, what your children are able to do if you have kids, what, elders in your life or your friends. This is one of the bamboozlements. It's ashy, it's bootsy in the middle class. But I'm like, okay, like you fight, you keep increasing the salary but then your expenses go up.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the golden handcuffs. This is why I can only keep looking at roles like this, even though there's perhaps some awareness that like I want to be present for my family. I want to have a different relationship with work.
Hmm.
But here we are, and I would be radically disrupting my family system's
Hmm.
stability and resources and life experience if I step away from it. And that's hard. That's a hard place to be. And I think a lot of senior leaders in nonprofits, in corporate, in school districts are facing that moment right now where they're
Hmm.
like, how do I get well in here?
Yeah. I totally understand that. I think what we don't realize is the cost it takes and the toll it takes on us. And then when we're with our family, we're not really with our family,
Mm,
right? Like we're
yes.
just a shell of ourselves, and then we wake up and go back to work. And then, you get paid when you get paid, and that's your happiest day because you're working for the check.
Or
Yeah.
you're working for the impact, or you're working for the mission,
Yeah.
and I think that's another life lesson I wish someone would have told me earlier, right? We needed to talk about microdosing wellness. We needed to talk about golden handcuffs. We needed to talk about boundaries with workplace abusers. These are all important. But I also think that, you know, there are certain relationships that you can never replace.
Mm.
And when you become to ritualize or make habits of unwellness and self-sacrifice, it's really challenging to replace those behaviors. I talk often about
Mm.
my experience as a school administrator. Hands down, out of all the jobs I've had, it was the hardest job in Deep East Oakland, serving my community. But no one told me the additional burden and blessing of being of and from the community.
Mm.
When the kids look like you, when the staff looks like you, when the families look like you, when they've grown up in similar places, when you have the transference sometimes, right? it's very hard to set boundaries in that environment because it's deeply personal. They look like your kids. They could be your kids. They are your kids.
You're listening to the Do Better with Debra podcast with Dr. Debra Y. Griffith and her very special guest, Executive Director of the Teaching Well, Lindsey Fuller. Please visit theteachingwell.org/service offerings for more information. And now, back to the podcast.
Tell me more about this microdosing wellness. You mentioned it earlier.
Yes, this is a concept for us we've been working on for several years now. And I just wish, I'm like, where was the fairy godmother? It's ghetto that I wasn't assigned one because it seemed like they didn't just like put you in pretty dresses. They like made miracles happen. And I needed this lesson when I was a child. But, it's this concept of small things often. And what we see in the social sector, and when I say social sector, I don't just mean nonprofits. I mean in service provision roles, nurses, teachers, social workers. What we see is that people are waiting for the next ideal time, the next break to take care of themselves. And then they get to that break and other things come up and then they never take care of themselves. Right? So it's really flipping one of the fundamental mindset and practice shifts needed to be resilient and sustained, for me, is not waiting until it's the perfect time to heal or to get well. It's figuring out how to incorporate workplace well-being sustainably and consistently. So for me, that might look like I take my Fitbit goals very seriously because they are a vibration on my wrist that invite me to choose myself. So when it says stand up, I stand up. What meeting, in what conditions would it not be acceptable for me to stand up for a moment? Why am I chained to my chair? I don't care if it's a funder that's offering $1 million. If it's a educator client, I am modeling for them that my body has a need and I am responding to it. I drink my water. I'm a hydrated queen. I don't want to be ashy internally, okay? I habit bundle all the time. So I'm like, okay, after I use the restroom during my workday, I'll do 5 squats. Do I do that all the time? No, but habit bundling works for me. So if I wanted to do that, that would be my business and I would do that. I meal prep on Sundays. Everyone in my family knows. If my friends want to kick it, they got to come over to my house. Between 2 and 5, I'm cooking because it will influence the caliber of my consumption across the week. I go get sunlight. If I'm going to the bathroom, I'm already near the front door. I'm going to go and have sunlight hit my face. Like I'm free. Our ancestors fought for this. I'm free during my workday. And, and I connect with joy sources. I've been telling people all the time, I'm concerned with how many of us vent to people that don't have our best interests in mind.
Wow. That is so true.
Yeah. So we have curriculum at the Teaching Well on the difference between gossiping, venting, and productive processing. Productive processing be the replacement that we bring forward. And we all have that best friend where you call them, you vent to them about your day, and they tell you every single time to quit. But is quitting your job going to solve the problem? Is that actually what's best for you? Is that who you should talk to? So I think it's very important not just to find joy sources, but to find trusted confidants that can see the big picture and advocate and wrap around you in your time of need without actually feeding into your deepest insecurities or your most reactive decisions.
Wow. Lindsey, I mean, I've not thought about getting up out of my chair like you do, or going outside for the sunlight and taking advantage of every little moment. I have this colleague that had taken a month off when I first started at my current job. And I'm like, a month? Like, who takes a month? I think it was like February. And it was because he was at his depleted. And that's the cycle, right? He would wait, and then I've never seen that before. But I've not thought about the microdosing like you're talking about.
And that's not to say you don't need macro interventions. I really honor your colleague's wisdom. He said, I got too far. But that's what I mean when I say the cost of burnout is greater. And I know we originally connected around this podcast when I made a LinkedIn post about how tattoos are one of my self-care practices. But that is a part of my self-study, recognizing that for every week that I am in burnout, it takes me 2 weeks to rebound.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this very cautiously because, again, this is the eye roll where folks get in their sensitivities when they're like, ooh, don't blame people. I'm not blaming anyone. And I'm not actually blaming myself. I'm stating a behavioral fact, which is that the longer I allow myself, and this is new language, this is empowered language. Before, burnouts happened to me. But now I am an active character in that experience. So before I allow myself to stay in a burnout for too long, I have to construct an intervention plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it will require macro interventions, not just microdosing wellness. You can't microdose your way
Mm-hmm.
out of a burnout.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of preventing. And when you do arrive at it, because sometimes it's inevitable, it's about reducing the severity and the frequency of your burnout states.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, for me, daily practices are really important, right? So getting up to row before work starts, doing my triangle breaths, setting my intentions for the day,
Ashe.
and also reflecting on yesterday. Where did I land my intentions,
That's right.
right?
And all of those are somatic practices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what when we talk about somatics, it's like, mindfulness is all sexy in our field. And it's beautiful. It's powerful. It's one way to heal. We talk about somatics as any way to heal mind, body, and spirit. So from movement to breath work, setting intentions, I would add prayer,
Mm-hmm.
like all of these, reflection, those are all somatic practices. Those are all your daily decisions to heal real time.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you mentioned this during our time together in our meeting. You talked about taking a sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, what? Can you share with us a little bit about your thinking about your sabbatical? Because who takes a sabbatical?
Listen, I got seen who takes a sabbatical. Actually, I thought about that. Well, first of all, the teaching well is building internal sabbatical models. So we about to take sabbaticals. Because why wouldn't we? I mean, this is the thing for me. I've never felt so much freedom than coming into the nonprofit sector. And some people are going to be like, girl, what? But when you are bound by the bell working in schools,
Bound by the
when
bell.
I was bound by the bell, when every work day, every vacation was predetermined for me, when expected hours, and listen, I love being an educator, and I'm not convinced, I'll always be one. I'm not convinced I'm done with school or district leadership. I'm not. So I'm never going to say I'm done. But I will say when I arrived at nonprofits, I was like, what y'all doing over here? And I know for people that have spent their entire career in nonprofits, you might be like, girl, bye. But for me, I was like, wow, I can create my own schedule? Do you mean I can use the restroom when I need to? This is a trap. I could drink a lot of water because I'm hungry and I can eat. And there aren't tiny humans vying for that snack. Quit playing. Like this right here is liberatory. And I know not everybody feels that way, but that's why I'm like, the possibilities are endless. So who takes a sabbatical? I take a sabbatical. I got some senioritis right now. I'm 1 week away. Bless the Kenneth Rainin Foundation in Oakland, California. They are sponsoring this Rest and Care grant. It's a micro sabbatical, which is right on time for me. I've learned so much already. Everyone talks about the post-sabbatical clarity, but I'm having it before as well. A window of somatic clarity, if you will. Clarity on partnerships, on the next evolution of program lines, on relationships. I'm even thinking about relationships that are paying, that no longer serve us, and what my relationship to work is and how I'm ready for that to change. I would liken the judgment and unsolicited feedback that I've received when I tell people I'm taking a sabbatical to when I am pregnant. When I am with child, people assume they can touch your stomach. They can tell you about their birthing journey. They want to talk about whether you're disappointed based on the gender. I mean, people don't honor the sacred mother. And I have watched as I share about sabbatical, everyone's like, oh, only 8 weeks? That won't be enough. Oh, you should be leaving your kids and traveling for a certain amount of time, right? So you just like, you'll do no work the whole time. And of course, I'm not doing work for the teaching well, but I mean work as like I'm purging things in my house. I'm doing medical appointments and treatments that I have delayed. Like, what you think I'm gonna lay around and somebody gonna fan me with grapes? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I rebuke and reject any projections, again, because I'm working on the concept of impermanence. And thank you to Lena Anthony, the Teaching Well teammate, who taught me about impermanence. There is no should. Anytime I hear myself vocalize the word should, I recognize that I am in a control and uh, a certainty move. And I don't want to do that. I want to release that. There is no should. My sabbatical should not look a certain way. It will be what is. It will be emergent. I will do some resting. I will chaperone field trips, which are not restful. Okay. We will travel some. That's our business. And that's exhausting to parent in a different city. Okay. So I'm just really with the effort to be emergent and accepting and to have low expectation, but high self and collective investment. And I'll figure out how it goes on the other side.
I'm excited for you. What's the difference between escaping and pausing with a purpose? What do you hope this pause helps you reclaim?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot as someone who's, been a behaviorist, been working in mod severe behavioral work for over a decade. I think a lot about, you know, adaptive versus maladaptive coping strategies, right? Adaptive or life-saving strategies and just the way, and I talk about this in the first podcast episode on microdosing wellness of like, I use the example of the clown, which is silly, but sometimes I have an outsized reaction to a stressor.
Mm.
And I perceive that I am in a real and serious threat and I act accordingly. And I am really working to better understand my cortisol release and to shorten the time between a trigger and my response, and to try and hone in on how to more accurately respond to things that are objectively not a big deal. And my body and my nervous system don't always know the difference. And that's partially because I'm neurodivergent. It's partially because I'm a trauma survivor. And it's partially because I'm a leader that's been leading for hella long and I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm a parent of 3 children under 10.
Mm-hmm.
So SOS, send help, right? So I think we talk about the concept of a pro-social pause in our curriculum at the Teaching Well, which keeps you in the driver's seat, empowered. Even if you don't know what to do, you're better equipped to know what to ask for. And I think that for me, my goal with this sabbatical is to be 1% more present each day of the sabbatical, to be 1% more forgiving during the sabbatical, to have 1% greater relaxation each day of the sabbatical. I love that. I love that for me and my family system. And so I just want to be really present with them and really present with myself and let the rest unfold. But I'm hoping to reclaim my time, my relationships, and recently a big win earlier this week. I told you I left this conference a little bit earlier than I anticipated yesterday from the reception portion. I got home and my 10-year-old said, "Wait a minute, you weren't supposed to be home yet." And my middle child said, "Uh-oh, are you going to get in trouble for being here? How come you came?" Right? They were so curious about this because they know when I got to work, I got to work. And then my 10-year-old said, "I know why, because work isn't more important than your family," which is something I've been saying to my girls over and over. Work will never be more important than being your mom. So to have that mirrored back to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a really important lesson that you're teaching your children, and how choosing life is how you choosing to lead now. Is there any other lessons that you're teaching them?
I mean, I'm trying to teach them all types of things. Look, I'm like, all the conversations that my family didn't have with me, I'm trying to have with them and just be a safe, neutral space for them to come to. Like, I'm a guest in their journey. That's been a huge shift in my mindset. Like, these aren't, they're my kids, but it's not my life. I'm a guest. I'm a facilitator. And my greatest goal in life is to facilitate a childhood for my children that they do not need to heal from.
Hmm.
And I will fight for that. And so, I think there's some grapplings right now with the new generations of being like, it's almost like they want a trauma story, some of these kids. Like I'm like, oh, but I don't want to rank our hardships. It's a gift and an honor that they don't have big hardships. But what they perceive as big is theirs to navigate, and I'm there to co-regulate. And it's the thing that gives me the most joy in life is seeing happy little free Black girls climbing trees, swimming in rivers, dealing with difficult conversations, never having to flinch or guess if mommy and daddy are safe for them, being surrounded by adults who are unapologetically invested, loving to learn, finding it cool to be a nerd, caring about others. Like, my kids are hella dope. I'm biased, but I love it.
It's interesting you had mentioned you wish that you had a fairy godmother. It sounds like maybe your role is to be a fairy godmother for many. You've dropped a lot of gems today.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna put it on my LinkedIn title.
You should.
Fairy godmother to the masses. Just kidding.
I often think the same thing, right? Like, where are the mentors? Like, how come I didn't get this and this? Right? So maybe our story is in our learnings. Maybe this is what we're supposed to be for others.
It may be so. And I do wonder, I had folks that were invested in me. My first mentor came when I was in college, though, right? And that was a long time to wait. But one thing I've had to do is I put my big girl chonies on and say, okay, I'm grown now. You know what I mean? You hit a certain age and you're like, oh, no, I can't. I'm not yet. I'm not old, but I'm not young. Okay.
You still look good.
Well, listen, thank you. You know what I mean? It's the water intake. But sometimes I think it's important to look back at the people in our lives, to rehumanize them from your adult lens, and to maybe redefine what mentorship meant. And I say all this because my greatest advocate in life was my stepmother, Mama Val, who I just identified as my mom. And she taught me what unconditional love meant. There wasn't a single day in my life where I did not know that she would go to the ends of the earth for me. She told me, she showed me, she saved my life over and over and over again. I'm so angry at Disney and other companies for portraying step-parents, bonus parents as inherently evil. She saved my life over and over again. And some of the ways that she mentored me was by making visible what she wasn't able to access. And she didn't dump that on me. I wasn't parenting up. There was no misuse of power. But she never said the word self-care to me. I knew when she was having a hard day because she silently cried over the dishes. I knew when she was trying to pick herself up after tough family situations because she would paint her toenails bright cherry red. And there were just these other signs, but sometimes in the absence of her ability, she did the best that she could with what she had. She didn't know how to teach me those things because she was never afforded them or taught herself. But if you look and you listen, you slow down enough to say, I respect and honor this person more than anyone else in the world. What could I learn from what they were living? Like, right? Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's this picture of what a mentor is. And it's like, they're at the chalkboard and we're like, they're being explicit and metacognitive. They're coaching us actively. And I'm like, actually, so much of what we learn how to be, how to exist, what to do and what to disrupt is just from the living together-ness in the world. And so I'm just kind of challenging my own stories around who's been a mentor and who hasn't, who's been my teachers and who haven't. And I'm grateful to her and many others.
I really appreciate you sharing that, and I totally get that. I want to say thank you so much for being in this conversation with me. I've found it very rewarding and I dare say healing.
Ooh, come on. I will flip this table and take my tambourine out. I love that.
I just really appreciate you. Before we jump off,
too.
I have this final question. For the women listening who are tired, who've been running on empty, who maybe haven't felt the permission to pause, what would you say to them?
Yeah, just to recap some of the through lines from this podcast, study how to microdose wellness, build yourself a intervention plan.
Hmm.
Don't allow capitalism or others around you to define your healing journey. Whether you invest in yourself through coaching or therapy or a spiritual circle, you have to figure out how to enable yourself to begin to reconstruct a life that you don't need to heal from.
Hmm.
And it's never too late. Like today's a great day to start, or next week, but you're worth it right now. And that investment will liberate the masses around you. So get free.
Hmm. Thank you, Lindsey.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me.
Lindsey is a walking reminder that rest is in resistance, that pausing is a form of power, and that we don't have to break ourselves to serve others. If you felt seen today, share this episode with somebody who needs the reminder. And don't forget, you don't have to hit empty to matter. Until next time, I'm Debra, and this is the Do Better with Debra podcast.
You've been listening to human-centered leadership coach and executive director of The Teaching Well, Lindsey Fuller. You can find her on LinkedIn or at theteachingwell.org. You can also tune in to her very own podcast, Gather at the Well, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show, leave a rating, or review and share with a friend or colleague. You can always find Do Better with Debra on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and coming soon to YouTube. Thanks for listening.